This is what we're making today. Truly delicious. That will pull apart very easily. Well, hello, how are you doing today? I'm getting my oven started here. I'm going to set my temperature this time at 325. So what I'm doing today, I'm making pulled pork. Delicious, easy to make pulled pork. Folks, okay, look. Some things take some time to cook, I get it. This is one of those recipes. It doesn't cook overnight, doesn't cook quickly, or excuse me, it'll cook overnight, but it doesn't cook quickly. And so it doesn't just happen immediately, all right? This is the kind of thing where it needs to cook slowly. A cut of meat like this needs to cook until basically the meat starts falling apart, or as they say, falling off the bone. And this is a bone-in cut. This is a pork shoulder. Some people call it a picnic roast. There's other names for it. But essentially, yeah, this is a pork shoulder, front shoulder of the pig. And we're going to be adding just simple pepper, salt. I've got some chili sitting here. I'm going to cut those up and put them down in here with the water that I braise this in. Now, braising, what is that? We're going to get into it in a minute. But for now, take a look at this and what I'm using so we can get started and make us some delicious pulled pork. Before we get into that, please look right down in the description box and you're going to see links to my website, also to my Patreon, to my Wisio. My website is where I have the recipes that I've already produced for print, all right? And they're not just some cheap typed out thing. It's a really quality recipe with descriptive photographs, numbered instructions. It's well authored and you're going to be surprised at what you get. So take a look at those. But for now, let's look at this and get started making this delicious roast. Come on. So what I'm using today is a pork shoulder, as we've already mentioned. Sometimes called a picnic roast, also called a pork butt, which doesn't make sense to me because the butt's really the ham, folks. This is a shoulder, this is the front. All right, so what we have is a beautiful cut of meat, has a lot of fat in it, okay? And it has a fat cap on the other side. I'm going to turn that face up, but I wanted you to see the cut of meat itself. To this, in the pan, I'm just going to slice these in half and throw them down in there. That's to add flavor to the liquid that's going to be in this pan with the roast. That liquid is going to flavor the roast, and it's also going to provide something wonderful after the fact. So we have that going on. We're going to use a little salt and pepper on the top, and that's all. This is very easy. So let's get busy and put this together. Now before I put my peppers in here, I want to get my pork flipped over. There we go. Get that fat side up. And I like to do that because that fat will render down through the meat, adding flavor. It just works. I'm going to use plenty of salt and pepper over the top of that. Okay. Remember, it's a big cut of meat, so you don't have to be bashful about your salt. All right, and this fat back is also going to be coming off of here. So, all right, that part of it's done. I just got to cut these up now. So I think my oven is about to beep, letting me know that the temperature is right. In the meantime, I'm going to take these, see what I did there? Just split it lengthwise, nothing more, nothing fancy, okay? We're just opening them up so they can release their flavors and their goodness right down inside of this pan. Whoop, that was the timer we've been waiting on. There we go. And the reason I'm using different peppers here, folks, is just to show you you don't have to stick to one thing. I've got bell pepper, I've got poblano. You can use either or both, as I've done, or none at all. It's not going to make the dish hot or spicy. It's just going to impart a whole lot of really good flavor. All right, so here we have our pork roast. I need to get water in here, and I want that water, number one, to be hot, and number two, I want it to be halfway up on the roast. It should cover my peppers. That's 2 quarts of water, and I'm going to add maybe a cup or 2 more, and that's all. Okay, put a cover on it. It goes in the oven. Now, how long to cook one? Well, it's not a matter of timing it. It's a matter of putting a fork in it, and when it comes out tender, it's done. This needs to be pulling free from the bone. A fork needs to slide out easily. And when it's at that point, then we can start by shredding our pork after it cools. So it's a process. All right, got my pork roast all ready to go. The oven's preheated. There we are. Now it's just a matter of cooking and patience. This is at 325. I'm just going to leave it in there for a number of hours. In fact, I'm going to set my timer to start with for 3 hours. Okay, I'll check it at the end of that, and then if it needs more time, and it probably will, I'll keep cooking. We have been right about 3 hours of cooking, just a few minutes over actually. Okay. So, if you've never heard the term braising, when you cook in liquid like this, you're doing this kind of thing in the oven, this is braising, folks. Slow cookers are also braisers. They cook at low temperatures and they cook slowly, and that's what we're doing here. Now this meat, I can stick my fork in there and pick that meat up almost, and see that's really firm. I could feel it the minute I put my fork against it. So I know this has to just sit in there for a while longer. It could be 1 or 2 more hours. So just kind of keep your eye on it. Now these peppers are just doing their thing. They're in there releasing their flavors. And what you're going to end up with is a layer on top of lard that has been rendered. And it's part of this stuff that's rendering through the roast and down into the pan. And underneath that, we're collecting a whole lot of gelatin in that liquid, and it's going to prove to be quite delicious. Okay, so here we have just something wonderful. All we have to do is put it back in the oven and let it do its thing. Leave it alone. Get her on in there. My roast has been in there for about 4 hours now, and so it's had plenty of time for cooking. In fact, it has been, oh, no, that's 4.5 hours. This guy is now nice and tender. The aroma that's coming off of it's just unbelievable, and in a moment we're going to take a look inside of that. There we go. Now you get a good view of that. The roast is all finished up. And you remember when I mentioned fork tender, and now we put a fork in that, and that fork comes out pretty easy, pretty much anywhere I put it. Also, I've tested that meat, and I'm going to tell you right now, you know, it's coming apart easily. See that? So we can make easy pulled pork with that, and the flavor is just unbelievably good. All right, let's take a look at what we have. Beautiful roast here. I'm going to need a couple of sets of tongs to handle this. Sometimes these things will come apart on you, so just be prepared if that does happen. It's happened to me more than I can count. There we go. See, got bones sticking out there. This whole thing is looking really good. Now what I'm going to do is remove these chilies from in here. I'm going to pour this liquid into a bowl, and that way I can separate my saturated fat from the gelatin. Now let's go ahead and get these peppers out here. And I'll say this, if you decided you want to take these and run them through a blender, something like that, you're going to end up with a heck of a neat sauce. And what you use that sauce for, well, that's your business, but just an idea for you. So I'm going to set that aside. The rest of my juices I want to put through, let me get this here, I want to put it through a strainer, and that way whatever is in there is going to get caught in that, and I'll get a nice, pure, clean au jus from this. All right, there it is. Take that out. And now for the important part, this right here. I'll simply take this and put it in the refrigerator and allow it to come down in temperature. Everything that solidifies on top is going to be my saturated fat, and everything underneath there, that's going to be all of that gelatin. Now, if I wish to use some of this right now, it's not a problem. I would use a ladle and go deep and then bring my ladle straight up, and it would push that fat to the side, giving me a lot of the juice from underneath. So that's how you can harvest that juice, or you can use a ladle to let the fat run into it until you get down to the juice. In a couple of different ways. Let's take a look at our roast. So, as I mentioned, we have a bone in this one to bone in. And I can take my meat and actually, if I hold my bone, I can pull that meat free and slip that bone right out of there. Look at that, folks. Now that is quite literally what we call falling off the bone right there. It doesn't get much better, and the meat that we get from this, it will shred and give us such a delicious flavor. This is easy to do for pulled pork because it comes apart now. Well, there it is, folks. We got it out of the pan on that tray. It is ready to shred now. This stuff will come apart so easily. Look at this. That is what we mean by pulled pork, and pulled means you just pull the meat apart. Shred it. Makes it very easy. Goes good on buns or just on your plate. Well, there it is. We have beautiful, beautiful pork. So tender. So delicious. Oh, man. Now, here's the thing. If you want that shredded pork, just break it apart a little bit onto a cutting board. Use a pair of forks and shred it. That's all there is to it. Or leave it like this, take it to the table and serve it like this. You can serve it with bread. If people want to make their own sandwiches, they can. Or they can just have some plain pork roast with maybe some natural au jus. Or if they want, they can even put a little barbecue sauce on it. Folks, this is just plain delicious no matter how you do it. So take it, enjoy it, make it yours. And thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today. Please do me a favor and look down there in that description box. That's where I have my recipes. That's where I have links to other things, okay? So you're gonna find my Wisio there, you're gonna find my Patreon there, and you're gonna find my recipes because they're on my website, S.A.Trotter.com, and that link is right there also. Drop me a comment below if you'd like. Also, a thumbs up is always appreciated. And folks, please have a good day, all right? Oh man, that's good.